Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Mary Terry Tornek's 2018 State of the City event for Pasadena. I'm Vice Mayor John J. Kennedy from Council District 3, and it is my pleasure to welcome all of you this evening and to serve as your Master of Ceremonies. Before I begin, let's give a big round of applause to the Marshall School Jazz Band Ensemble, musical director Anthony Carafone, thank you, everyone. It is now my pleasure to introduce Student Body Vice President Alejandro Moreno, who will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, and Student Body President Julian Buragin, who will provide some brief introductions and give us some information on Marshall Fundamental School.
Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Place your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated.
Before I begin, I would like to give a brief welcoming to our PUSD Superintendent, Dr. Brian McDonald, our PUSD Assistant Superintendent of Secondary Education, Dr. Sarian, our Board of Education representatives, and our Marshall High School Principal, Dr. Mark Anderson. Marshall Fundamental Secondary School is one of the most challenging high schools in California and in the nation, as stated in 2017 by U.S. News and World Report, The Washington Post, the California Business of Education Excellence, and the National Association of Secondary School Principals, and by our principal, Dr. Mark Anderson. As a student, I can attest that my experience parallels these sentiments. As students, we are expected to do well and continue our education after high school graduation. During our high school years, in addition to our academics, we are involved in athletics, clubs, and the arts. Marshall Fundamental has over 26 sports teams, over 40 social and civic clubs, and art electives, including fine arts, choir, dance, drama, graphic design, and orchestra. 10 teachers are dedicated to broadening our knowledge of the arts and teach us on how to make connections in the real world. We also find it in our schedules time to get involved in our community. Our 2017 graduating class recorded over 19,000 community service hours, augmenting their already impressive 98% graduation rate, with 95% of graduates enrolled in over 43 different colleges and universities. This is something we expect to be repeated by our graduating class of 2018. However, I cannot forget to mention the great teachers and staff here at Marshall Fundamental, our outstanding parents, and moreover, the Pasadena area, which provides enrichment, culture, and community to our students. Because of this support, we will be lifelong learners and engaged participants in our communities. I am now pleased to introduce you to our Marshall Middle School Choir, directed by Jonathan Gold, in their rendition of Hallelujah.
was strong, but you needed proof. You saw her waving on the roof, her beauty and the moonlight overthrew you. She tied you to a kitchen chair, she broke your car and she cut your hair, and from your lips she drew the hallelujah. 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 I did my best, it wasn't much. I couldn't feel, so I tried to touch. I told the truth, I didn't come to fool you. And even though it all went wrong, I'll stand before the Lord of song with nothing on my tongue but hallelujah. 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 Hallelujah.
All right, that was fantastic. Our thanks to the Marshall Choir and their musical director, Jonathan Gould. Thank you. Okay, we're here, getting close to the main event, snug inside the new gymnasium for the Pasadena Unified School District's John Marshall High School Fundamental School. This is Mayor Terry Tornek's third State of the City address and his third time making the address inside a school gym. I sense a trend here. First, we were at McKinley in 2016, then Washington in 2017, and now Marshall with its new gym. I have to say I'm really impressed with this new building, which includes much-needed basketball and volleyball courts and other facilities. I might have to come here on my spare time and get my little ball going, my little b-ball maybe. Tonight's State of the City marks the continuation of the important relationship between the city and the Pasadena Unified School District. Both the city and the PUSD serve the same people, our residents. And it is important that we work together in our never-ending quest to make Pasadena the best it can be. I want to personally offer my congratulations and thanks to PUSD for another great gym project, for agreeing to host the cities tonight, and for all that you do for the families and children. Thank you again, Principal Dr. Mark Anderson, PUSD Superintendent Dr. Brian McDonald, and the PUSD Board of Trustees. Let's give them all a round of applause. It is now my pleasure to introduce my fellow city council members in attendance this evening, and I'd ask you to please stand. Councilmember Tyron Hampton from the 1st District. Councilmember Margaret McAustin from District 2. Councilmember Jean Masuda from District 4. If he's in the house, Councilmember Victor Gordo, District 5. Councilmember Andy Wilson, District 7. I hope I have not missed any of my colleagues. As many of you know, this is my first year to serve as your MC for the State of the City event. And I am proud to be here tonight, not only as MC, but as Pasadena's Vice Mayor, District 3 Council Member, and a proud graduate of the Pasadena Unified School District. Before I introduce the mayor, I understand that it is customary for the MC to take a few moments to acknowledge dignitaries in attendance. From the Pasadena City College Board of Trustees, I'd like to ask Hoyt Hilsman to stand, Dr. Ross Selvage, and Linda Waugh. John Capoccia, Councilmember Sierra Madre, and also a member of Collaborate Pasadena. Would you please stand? From one of the greatest school districts in all of California, the Pasadena Unified School District, we have the president, Roy Begorgian. Roy, would you please stand? Patrick Cahallahan, would you please stand? Elizabeth Pomeroy. Elizabeth. Last but not least, Michelle Richardson Bailey. Also, the important work that the city and the City Council accomplishes year after year would not be possible without the dedication and help from community members who willingly serve in volunteer appointments on the various city boards, commissions, committees, and operating company boards. I'd like any and all members of those committees here in our audience tonight to stand or raise their hand to be recognized. Would you please stand? Thank you all for attending. You do extraordinary work. Now, tonight, it is my honor to introduce the person whom I know you've been all waiting to hear. As I mentioned, tonight marks his third State of the City address. But Mayor Terry Tornek has been around Pasadena for many, many years before becoming our mayor. And you may know this, he was once a city employee himself, so he knows all the ins and outs. As mayor, his life is in a constant whirlwind on behalf of the city. He has a lot on his shoulders and on his mind, and I hope you are as interested as I am in learning what he intends to share with us tonight. Without further ado, please join me in a warm welcome for Mayor Terry Tornek. All right, Mayor.
He has a folder. Thank you, John. That was great. And welcome everyone again to this beautiful facility, and our thanks to the PUSD for letting us showcase one of their recently completed Prop TT projects. First, let me say this is a continuing privilege for me to serve as your mayor, and I appreciate all of you attending tonight. I also appreciate and want to acknowledge my family's presence, my bride Maria, my son Joshua, his wife Claudia, and two of their children, Annabella and Giannina. Joshua is a teacher here at Marshall, And Giannina and Annabella are students here at Marshall. So this school is, we have a significant investment in this school other than just the new gym. The city charter requires that in January of each year, the mayor present a thematic budget message for the stated purpose of receiving and considering public suggestions and comments on the city budget prior to its preparation and ultimate approval by the City Council. So for the past 2 years, I've devoted most of my State of the City speech to our finances. I've tried to provide our residents with a background on how we pay for city services and to alert everyone that the day was fast approaching when we could not rely on our current sources of revenue to adequately pay our bills. Unhappily, in spite of all the positive things happening in our city, that day has arrived. Tonight I will explain not only how this happened, but also how we can overcome this challenge by working together. Chart A shows that our general fund revenues are approximately $237 million. The four biggest individual sources, which account for more than half of the revenue, remain property tax, $61.4 million, sales tax, $35.6 million, utility users tax, $29.1 million, and transient occupancy tax, $16.5 million. Everything else, charges, fees, and unpredictable intergovernmental transfers, are $94.2 million. Increased development and rising property values will continue to be our primary source of revenue and revenue gains, while sales and utility taxes are largely flat. Chart B is a pie chart which shows by department how we spend the revenue we collect. An additional $29 million not shown is non-departmental, like bond debt payments. The big four, as shown, are police, $71.6 million, up from $71.3 million last year. Fire, $45 million, up from $43.8 million last year. Public Works, $21.6 million, down from $23.8 million last year. And libraries, $11.4 million, up from $10.7 million last year. Everything else, all the departments, human services, planning, transportation, $58.4 million, up just a tad from $58.2 million last year. The city's contribution to the employee retirement system, CalPERS, continues to take a growing bite out of our budget. Chart C shows that the budget payments to CalPERS were remarkably stable from 2011 to 2015. Although our rates have soared, your City Council has worked with city employees to increase their contributions, which help to offset the increases. So our budget costs during this time period held in the lower $30 million range. Unfortunately, underperformance in CalPERS investments led to a jump to $39 million in 2016. And last year, it climbed to $41 million. 4 years out, the forecast is a whopping $65 million, a 100% increase in 6 years. This represents an increase from 7.5% to 13.9% of our general fund budget, and is an obligation that is largely beyond our control.
I want you guys to pay attention to black people.
There is, however, some good news regarding our reserves.
You care about black people. All you guys trying to look around the signs to pay.
Miss, there will be a question and answer period.
I don't care. I want them to pay attention right here. Look over here. Yeah, see, shut up when I'm talking about black people. All you care about is money, huh, sir?
This event is to inform the public of important issues that concern our city. If you continue to disrupt this event, you'll be required to leave and may be subject to arrest and criminal prosecution. If you want to wait for the question and answer period, I'll be happy to answer your questions.
I care about black people. Be quiet. You care about money, bro. All right, thank you. Keep talking so everybody black Americans can see.
Shut up and get aside now.
Well,
Let the
shut
mayor
up,
talk.
All right, Trump supporter. Black lives matter. Black lives matter. In Pasadena.
There is, however, some good news regarding our reserves, our savings account. Chart D shows that in 2008, our total reserves were approximately $46 million. During the Great Recession of 2008 to 2012, we drew down various reserves by $25 million in order to maintain the level and quality of city services. Since then, we've been rebuilding our rainy day fund, so now it stands at $52 million, which is greater than pre-recession levels. We've accomplished this by balancing our budgets, eliminating some staff positions, and adding savings generated by one-time payments. Additionally, last June, the City Council allocated $12 million to a special trust for future pension and other post-employment benefit obligations, thereby further building our reserves. Still, looking ahead, if we continue on our current pattern of income and expenses, we will be in a deficit position during 2019, which begins this July. Chart E shows that expenses will begin to outstrip income by $3.5 million in fiscal year 19, then more than doubling to $8.3 million by fiscal year 22. This is not a sustainable outcome, so we must continue to work hard to enhance income and to reduce expenses. On the expense side, the city made significant reductions during the Great Recession and has continued to make cuts where possible. Since 2009, the city has eliminated 123 positions, including 23 sworn police officers, thereby reducing our police force from 262 officers to 239. We reduced expenditures in the general fund by $19.2 million. These are cuts you don't readily see as we've tried hard to minimize service impacts to residents. We shifted $5.3 million in annual pension costs to the employees, while at the same time limiting salary increases to less than 2% per year over the past 10 years. Many employees did not receive any increases at all for 3 or 4 years, in spite of the increased cost of living. And we reduced local transit service by eliminating Sunday service and cutting Route 70, which served West Pasadena. While great effort has been made to maintain service levels, despite these reductions, we've reached the point that any further reductions will have noticeable impacts. It's expected that as part of next year's budget, every department, including police, fire, human services, and recreation, will have to reduce services. Even more worrisome is that given current projections, the city will be forced to make even more drastic cuts over the next few years, which will directly impact the services that our community relies on. In addition to operating budget cuts, we won't have the funds necessary to address our many capital needs. Pasadena's infrastructure is aging and needs significant reinvestment. Repairs that are delayed often cost far more to repair when they fail. We currently spend $32 million on non-utility capital improvements, but it's not enough. We spend over $1 million a year to fix damaged sidewalks, but there's $20 million worth of work to do. We simply aren't paving enough miles of streets, replacing enough failing streetlights, or rebuilding enough sewers to keep up. While we've managed to rebuild one fire station and seismically retrofit another, we don't have the money to make necessary upgrades to the remaining 6. Pasadena is not alone in confronting this budgetary dilemma. Surrounding cities are facing the same issues, and many are considering significant personnel and service reductions to meet the projected shortfalls. My sworn duty as your mayor is to preserve the good health and the future of our city. Rising costs, including pensions, mean that unless we increase our revenue, we must make material reductions in city services, including public safety. Therefore, I will ask the City Council to place a 0.75% sales tax increase before the voters on the November 2018 ballot. This would generate $21 million annually and allow us to avoid cutting services too deeply, and will also generate capital funds for reinvestment in critical facilities such as fire stations. Further, I would ask the voters to consider an advisory measure that would share 1/3 of the proposed tax, a quarter cent, with the Pasadena Unified School District. The PUSD is facing its own significant budget challenges, and if they are to continue their efforts to improve educational outcomes for our children, they need our support. We cannot have a great city without a great public school system. Raising the sales tax is a big ask. It will impact every resident, visitor, and business in our city. It's not a request that I make lightly or without trepidation. However, I believe that it must be done, and that once the voters understand what's at stake, they will support this proposal to secure our city's future. There'll be a great deal of public discussion about this proposal in the coming months, and I hope that you all will participate. I assure you that the City Council and the staff will continue to work hard to limit expenses and to generate the additional income for the city in order to maintain services at the high level that you expect. While we face financial challenges and we continue to grapple with chronic problems like homelessness, lack of affordable housing, and managing development, we also have lots of positive things going on in the city. The Arroyo Seco. In the past year, a citizen task force has been working hard developing their suggestions for priority projects, funding mechanisms, and implementation methods. They'll be presenting their ideas to the City Council next month, and we hope to be making positive changes this coming year. The Office of the Young Child. Pasadena has declared its intention to invest in our youngest residents and to become an early learning city by 2025. This effort is headquartered in the library department, and they began their efforts with a wonderful young family event in the Arroyo last September. Major construction projects. This year saw the completion of 460 new housing units, the initiation of construction of a new Hyatt hotel, a new HMRI research building, the new Kaiser Permanente Medical School, and the Chen Neuroscience Center at Caltech. Also, Doheny Eye Institute purchased the former Avery headquarters. But I was reminded tonight that perhaps the most important construction project of the past year is the one that will not get started. The rejection of the 710 freeway extension by a unanimous Metro vote means that we can begin planning on the reintegration of the freeway stubs and work with our neighbors, including Alhambra, to craft 21st century solutions to our transportation needs. And some important regulations. After extensive public discussion, the City Council adopted new rules governing home sharing, accessory dwelling units, and marijuana, which will all have major impacts on our future. We're also placing charter election reform changes on the June ballot to comply with state law. Finally, the Arroyo Seco Weekend Music and Art Festival. In June, we saw the debut of this new event, which will be a long-term contributor to the financial health of the Rose Bowl. In sum, the state of our city is good. We are truly blessed as a community. With your support, we can stabilize our finances, continue to strengthen our institutions, and secure an improved quality of life for all of our residents. I hope that this evening has been useful to you, and I must thank those who helped put it together. Our special thanks again go to Marshall Fundamental, its principal, Dr. Anderson, students and faculty. From the Office of the Mayor and City Council, Rhonda Stone and Jonna Stewart. Pasadena Media's Chris Miller, Bobby Ferguson, and Danny Hess. Finance Director Matt Hawksworth and Public Information Officer William Boyer. From the Department of Human Services, Horace Wormley, Kenny James, and Dolores Mendoza, and our Northwest Program ambassadors, and of course, Vice Mayor Kennedy as the MC, and our City Manager, Steve Mermel. I know this has been a lot of information, and I know that there are some issues that we haven't covered, so I'd like to follow my personal preference of having at least some questions at any meeting that I conduct. If you're not called, please send me an email or a note, and I will respond. So who has a question? Yes.
First of all, I want to say Happy New Year to everyone here. But if you're a renter, there's a housing crisis in Pasadena. Put yourself in our position.
Excuse me, sir. As opposed to statements, though, can you pose it as a question so I can answer it and other people have a chance?
Okay, fine. I'm going to take up too much of your time. What's being done for rent control in Pasadena? What's being done about it?
About?
Rent control in Pasadena. There needs to be something done.
The question, for those of you that didn't hear it, was what's being done about rent control. There is no support on the City Council, as near as I can tell, for rent control. I object to rent control for a series of reasons, not the least of which is that I think it will deter the production of new housing, drive rents up, and offers a good deal, sort of a lottery ticket win for the few people that benefit from it. So we will have further discussion. I know there's an attempt to put it on the ballot as a charter amendment, so the people will have a chance to make their will known on it. But I don't think that there's support for rent control on the City Council.
Well, at least you're being honest, because I'm going to tell you.
Sir, we're going to do this as a Q&A, okay? Thank you. Who's next? Yes.
I saw a video recently that was terrifying and disturbing of Pasadena police beating a black man in a context that appeared completely absurd. And it's been 6 years since Kendrick McDade was murdered by Pasadena police. And so my question is, are you ever going to do anything to support real accountability for the Pasadena Police Department and their disregard of black lives in our city?
Thank you. The matter of the way the police interact with the community is subject of active discussion and continued change. We spent 2 hours last Monday night listening to people who are feeling very unhappy about the way the police department interacts, particularly with young black men. The council is very much aware of the issue. We continue to work at it. The process of how the police department interacts with different parts of the community has been the subject of a lot of discussion and will continue to be the subject of a lot of discussion. We are going to be considering reforms in terms of changes to policies, training, and methods of investigation. There's been a specific request that we move up the implementation of a new state policy on record keeping and when stops are made, and I support that. So I think that you will see in the coming months not just substantial discussion, but substantial change in terms of some of these issues. I will say that I think that the City Council and the vast majority of Pasadena residents support the police department in the way they conduct their business, but I think we also recognize clearly that there's room for improvement, as do the officers of the police department. So I think there's an opportunity here to effectuate change without weakening our ability to effectively provide public safety services in the city. Next. Yes.
I see that you say we need revenue, and then I saw that you said that you say no to the marijuana, recreational marijuana use. Isn't that like, if you need the revenue and the state of California voted yes to marijuana, and yet cities say, no, we don't want that, don't you need revenue? Didn't you just say you need revenue, and can you get tax dollars to go to police departments, try to get housing for people? I mean, I don't see why you guys are just saying no to it without others, places have shown that they get great revenue from that.
Thank you. Question is why we don't approve marijuana sales in the city and tax it and use recreational marijuana sales. Well, we don't permit any kind of marijuana sales, not recreational or medical. But the City Council has not closed the door on that issue. The City Council position was that this is an issue that is fraught with complexity and potential pitfalls. Before we started granting licenses to marijuana sales locations around the city, we wanted to frankly benefit from the mistakes that other cities are going to make in this. I'm pretty confident that this issue will be revisited this year. I don't think that the revenue coming from medical marijuana is going to be the windfall that some cities think it will be. We can clearly use every buck we can get. But this is a complicated issue, and we don't think being early adopters in this case is necessarily in our best interest. But we will be revisiting this issue again in 2018. Maybe one more. Yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor, for years the city has resisted big box stores. I think that there's a significant amount of sales tax that goes outside the city, people going to Costco and Home Depot and other stores. There's locations like selling off part of the city yards, the Avon properties where a big box store could be brought in and bring in significant revenue to the city.
I'm sorry, the question was why don't we have big box stores? Well, there aren't a lot of locations that would accommodate them, and there's been significant neighborhood resistance to the traffic associated with big box stores. But I think that is an issue that's on the table. The city doesn't build them, we don't preclude them, but would have to be a special location to accommodate that kind of a use. So I'm going to bring this to a close. Thank you all for coming. My colleagues and myself will be in the house for quite some time. If you have some individual questions or suggestions, we'd love to hear from you. Thank you very much.